Check, checkity check. We are live. Good afternoon. Welcome to the films of the 1960s discussion. I guess I'll see everybody as you tend to show up there. First things first, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. It helps the channel grow, and I appreciate that. You can go to Bandcamp to check out my music. You can buy me a coffee. You can also visit Jennifer's Etsy shop for amazing art in the links below, as well as everything else. Also, my website. And you can get in touch with me if you're interested in consultation or advice about any kind of projects that you're involved in. I'd love to provide you with some consultancy or advice on that. And also, if you have a project that you'd be interested in me working with you on, as a producer, go ahead and get in touch. I've produced a couple of things, and if you'd like my input, I'm here for you. So today, films of the 1960s. I'm going to be doing this one in two parts because there are so many films that I came up with that I think are really great. There are some complete stone cold classics that are just widely acknowledged as jewels of world cinema in this list, which is right here. And this list goes on to the back even. So yes, it's a lot. And before we begin, here's a relic of the 1960s, which is my personal yellow submarine. Yes, that's right. I actually purchased this die-cast yellow submarine model made by Corgi Toys in the UK when I was about 10 or 11 years old. And the Beatles pop out of it. There's one set of Beatles. I think it's George and Ringo. And then here's another set. And I think this is Paul and John who were together. So, oh, and the periscopes turn around when you roll it. So this is a cool little relic of my childhood that I have left over. Pertinent because we are discussing films of the 60s. Anybody out there yet? Well, hello, greetings. So since list is so long, I'm going to get started with it right now. The number one movie I have on here, these are not in particular order of my preference or greatness or anything like that. I'm simply going year by year through the 60s. So today we will get up to the end of 1965, and then we'll handle 1966 to 69 next week. So the number one movie here is The Fugitive Kind. I don't know if any of you know about this movie, and I realized that I'd actually skipped out on having Marlon Brando mentioned in any of my movies of the 50s, which is kind of a crime because two of Marlon's greatest movies in the 50s are On the Waterfront, which might be his debut, I'm not sure, and also Streetcar Named Desire. So Streetcar Named Desire, of course, is excellent Elia Kazan movie. It's got the great Carl Malden in it and Geraldine Page, maybe, and also Vivian Lee, of course, immortal as Blanche Dubois. I just want a little magic, just a little magic. That's what we all want, isn't it? Just a little magic. And then Marlon Brando starts yelling at you. So that's how magic works. So The Fugitive Kind is also from a Tennessee Williams play. I think it's called Orpheus Descending. and it's a take on the Orphic list, on the Orphic myth, where Orpheus basically descends into hell and is consumed by harpies as a result of people becoming jealous of him in the real world. So this is a really excellent film. It has Anna Magnani in it, a great Italian actor, and it also has Joanne Woodward in it as kind of like the white trash town girl with money who's just in town to cause a ruckus. And the next, and so Marlon Brando's um, role in this film is great. He's pretty much a blues drifter who got to know some great bluesmen who gave him his guitar, and he's kind of wandering the landscape. He has a snakeskin jacket on, and so I believe that Nicolas Cage actually conducted a kind of homage to that in Wild at Heart, where he wears a snakeskin jacket and explains exactly what that snakeskin jacket means to him. Hey, Don Joe Fonzarelli, good to see you. Hi, Ben, good to see you. So we just discussed The Fugitive Kind, which is a great early Marlon Brando movie, and absolutely an excellent characterization of him on him. He thinks he's going to be a wandering drifter musician, and he ends up as a shoe store clerk in ghetto town, Mississippi. So that's how that works. And it turns out really badly. Spoiler alert. But it's interesting to see how the whole thing gets there. And of course, all of Tennessee Williams' plays have been kind of poorly represented by cinema. I mean, there's been a lot of incredible adaptions of them, but they've also been highly censored because there's a lot of prurient material in Tennessee Williams plays, beginning with Streetcar Named Desire, going on to The Fugitive Kind, going on to Suddenly Last Summer, going on to Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. So a lot of these have just been kind of excised, unfortunately, and it would be great to see unedited versions of these brought to the big screen, which they could do now. There's no excuse for doing it. It's not that outrageous of material right now. So, The Fugitive Kind with Brando, Magnani, and Joanne Woodward, awesome film. And incidentally, I will be putting a list of all of these films below once the stream is concluded, so you can go back and check all of those out. Hey, Bloor, good to see you. Your favorite movie is Lawrence of Arabia, followed by Spartacus. Two awesome films, one directed by David Lean, the other, of course, by Stanley Kubrick. So we'll get to both of those guys a little bit later. I'm only on to number two, so I need to bust my chops a little bit. The 60s, the year 1960 actually has every movie in it that I've picked is just an outrageously good movie, and I'm probably leaving some out. So the number two movie I have almost doesn't even bear worth speaking about because it's so iconic, so ridiculously classic and amazing. And that movie is Psycho. And so, do I even need to say anything about Psycho? There's a couple of really interesting sort of side stories about it. You can read more about this. There is a great book by the filmmaker Francis Truffaut, French filmmaker, and it's nothing but interviews with Alfred Hitchcock. And of course, Truffaut was a huge Hitchcock fan and was kind of a became sort of a film scholar. And he did a series of interviews with Hitchcock, and the book is like this thick. So get the Truffaut Hitchcock book, those of you who are fans out there. And there's a lot of great behind the scenes stuff about all of Hitchcock's films. And some of the stuff about Psycho is that it took, I think, a week to shoot the shower scene. And then also There's not one point in the entire movie where a knife actually touches flesh. The entire thing is just done with editing and with camera angles, and it's completely superlative, um, just because of that very fact. It shows you the power of editing. Um, Laura says, "Love Psycho. I have 30 Hitchcock movies, overshadowed Peeping Tom." Mm, I think maybe Peeping Tom, well, it did overshadow Peeping Tom because Peeping Tom came out in the UK, and of course, once the distributors got a peek at it, they basically ruined Michael Powell's career. They said, "You're done. You're never making another movie here," which is quite incredible after all the movies that he's made. And Peeping Tom was a little bit later, I think. Um, but also, Alfred Hitchcock at that point had the huge mechanism of Universal behind him. So they were just all in on it. They were like, this is Hitchcock. It's weird. It's black and white. It's widescreen. It's based on Ed Gein and a couple of other people. So let's do this. So they were all in. They pumped it really hard. And there you have the difference between the two things. Although I do think that Peeping Tom, while it has some comedic moments, I feel at this point in my life, after seeing Psycho multiple times, of course, is that Psycho is virtually black comedy to me at this point. There's so many things that you're only going to notice in your older years, particularly about the way Anthony Perkins portrays Norman Bates. I mean, just the rear view of uh, the rear view of Anthony Perkins walking up the staircase to take tea to his mother is just, it's, there it is. We all know what that is, and there that is. So it's filled with really great comedic moments like that. Anyway, I'll leave you to watch it differently, perhaps thinking of the comedy in it. But let's leave Psycho now. Oh, also, of course, landmark, amazing score by the great Bernard Herrmann, who did a variety of Hitchcock pictures. We'll leave Psycho and move forward to, in the same year, The Virgin Spring by Ingmar Bergman. So, okay, we have all of these movies in the 60s so far: Fugitive Kind, Psycho, Virgin Spring. And there's nothing but amazing movies after this, also in 1960. Virgin Spring, of course, I think it won Bergman his first Academy Award. And this is an absolutely incredible film. And its influence has been felt throughout the decades, all the way to, I think, Last House on the Left by Wes Craven, and also I Spit on Your Grave. So this is kind of an early, well, it's not an early revenge film, but it's a revenge film that's getting more into psychology and just the brutality of what real revenge actually means. It's basically, the great Max von Sydow plays a medieval farmer woodsman, and he's got a couple of daughters, one who is more in touch with the earth and kind of like a almost feral paganish type of girl, and the other one is just kind of like the essence of sunshine and happiness, and um, has her hair in little blonde braids, and is her father's favorite, is everybody's favorite. She gets sent to the town to do a some kind of a task or something, and meets with misfortune on the way. And the whole film is about Max von Sydow's revenge and how that makes him feel. And it's also, which a lot of Bergman movies are about, which is the silence of God. So without getting into all of that, I'll leave that there for you. But if any of you haven't seen The Virgin Spring, I insist you watch it, and hopefully it will get you into a space where you want to explore more of Bergman, because Bergman is quite something. Bergman's not for kids, and maybe there should just be some kind of rating for under 29-year-olds. Maybe today we can raise it to 35 because of the youthful ideation of a lot of culture. But Bergman is not for kids, and Bergman hangs on you like a miasma of doom in which there is no God answering your prayers. So enjoy.
So you would watch it.
Yeah, you should. Okay. Yeah, please do. It's kind of it's sort of a life-changing film in a lot of ways. It's really interesting. I mean, the nature, there's been, while there's been copious revenge movies. I think basically every single Liam Neeson movie now is a revenge movie. Um, but yeah, this is revenge done very differently and interestingly. So, okay, after Virgin Spring, we have, still in 1960, we have La Dolce Vita, which is another Fellini film, a great Fellini film. And it's a satire on what the aimless rich are doing in Rome. And Marcello Mastroianni is kind of a ne'er-do-well journalist who's incredibly jaded and just kind of follows celebrities around a little bit, works his little school of informers that he knows about what's happening amongst those celebrities. He hangs out with the aristocracy, all the while just being amazingly jaded about every single thing that's going on. And so this is an absolute classic, of course. La Dolce Vita has the great Maria Eckbert as the Marilyn Monroe-esque Western film star who comes to Italy and just makes the whole place implode by just going, I don't know about that. And they're all like, oh my God. So this is kind of a taste of what real paparazzi culture was like back then. And I think this is actually the film that made the word paparazzi come into kind of common parlance when talking about the scumbags that follow celebrities around. I can't really phrase it any differently. It's what they do. Uh, Beautiful cinematography, great score by Nino Rota, fabulous movie. It can be watched eternally. And of course, Marcello Mastroianni, just a fantastic film actor with just, one of these people who just makes you think, I can do that, because it just appears like he's doing nothing. And maybe he even was. According to Marlon Brando, there's really not much to acting, but it was Marlon Brando saying it. Incidentally, on a side note, there's a great clip. If you guys check out the Dick Cavett show on YouTube, because he interviews every famous movie star that ever existed. And there's a great one with when he has Marlon Brando on, and Dick Cavett is sitting there and he's going, so Marlon, what is acting? And at this point, Marlon Brando he's already made The Godfather. He's already made Last Tango in Paris. He's basically just sitting there and he kind of laughs and he goes, you want to know what acting is? And he's like, yeah, I do. I do. And he just looks into the camera and goes, and he does that for like 1 minute. And then the whole crowd just kind of goes crazy. And he goes, there it is. That's what it is.
You should ask what their favorite movies are.
So, well, they've already, I'll just go in a little more because I have. Okay, next, 1960, The Magnificent Seven. Okay, so this is an excellent Western. I don't know if you guys are Western fans. If you're not Western fans, what's wrong? This is an iconic American art form. Embrace it. I mean, just give in, just give in. You can find your way there. There's going to be whether you have to start with cowboys versus aliens or cowboys meet cavemen or, the great train robbery from 1905. You're going to get in there, but uh, Magnificent Seven, based on the classic film by Kurosawa, The Seven Samurai. They just basically looked at it and went, that's amazing. We can do an inferior version with cowboys. Let's do that. So that's what they did. But if you think of it off in a cage by itself, it's awesome. And of course, it has, the list of guys in this movie has a lot of my favorite actors ever. Yul Brynner, James Coburn, Charles Bronson. Is Charles Bronson in it? I think Bronson is in it. Maybe Bronson's not in it. Is Bronson in it? I don't think he's in it. It's got Robert Vaughn and Steve McQueen. So these guys are great. This movie's great. I think it's a John Sturges film. Incredible score by Elmer Bernstein. Cinematography. Oh, and let's not forget the great Eli Wallach. So Eli Wallach, absolute masterful actor from the 50s, 60s, 70s, I think even 80s. But
Of it in 2016.
yes, there's a remake of it. Why? Like, talk about the most unnecessary thing ever done, besides the remake of Rollerball or the remake of Mary Poppins. I mean, I'm old. I mean, but remakes are. Who's in the remake?
The original.
Bronson's in the original, so okay. And Charles Bronson is a guy who basically I could do a whole movie thing about because I love Bronson movies. I don't care what it is. If Bronson's in it, I'll watch it. And he has an amazing backstory as a person, so it's probably contributed to his acting. Oh, Denzel's in the remake. Okay, well that's
Chris Pratt,
Ethan Hawke, Chris Pratt,
Peter Sarsgaard.
Peter Sarsgaard. All right.
Those are good actors.
But once again, we're in the realm of the unnecessary. Or are we? It might be okay. I've received official word from the producer that it might be good. So
Ask if anybody's seen it.
has any of you guys seen the remake of the Magnificent Seven? If everybody says no, I'm not going to believe you. But anyway, yeah, the original and yeah, Eli Wallach. Yep.
Like it?
How was it? How was it in comparison to the original? Well, that's kind of unfair, isn't it? You just went yep. So I guess that speaks for 6 out of 10. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's an honest. That's honest. So yeah, Magnificent Seven. I'm wondering if that actually has Dennis Hopper in it too, as a guy who wants to try out and is kind of shit in the bar, and they're kind of looking at him, and he's going, "You gotta take me." Is Dennis Hopper in it?
Name of
Maybe I'm thinking of Gunfight at OK Corral or something.
True Grit or
No, well, Hopper was around back then, but okay, anyway. Next, the great 1960s film Eyes Without a Face. And this film basically involves a surgeon who lives in a big house. He's got a beautiful daughter, and his daughter was disfigured in a car accident. And he's going to use all of his skills to get her a brand new face. And what he goes through to achieve that, what they both go through, is it's primarily these two protagonists. To get her a new face is quite unbelievable. And they were not even making movies like this in the United States in the 1960s, really. I mean, this is really a groundbreaking film in a lot of ways. The guy who plays the doctor, I don't know his name offhand, but is just this chilling portrayal of somebody who is being utterly and completely psychopathic in his in showing his love for his daughter. So this is a great film, Eyes Without a Face, and I recommend it highly. Once again, it will be in the list. 1960, also, as Blore mentioned, has the movie Peeping Tom. And this is Michael Powell movie, once again, about a photographer who has a certain inclination. And I'm not going to tell you what that is. I'm just going to tell you to watch the movie. And Criterion did a great restoration of this. And this movie was unavailable for a really long time. I think it was banned in the UK even almost immediately after it came out. And it was basically unavailable to watch for like 15 years or something. I seem to remember there being some, when I lived in London, very occasionally there would be a showing of Peeping Tom at some place like the Scala in King's Cross or the Everyman Cinema in Hampstead, these kind of rep cinemas. But I didn't actually get to see Peeping Tom until I got a ratty VHS of it sometime in the 80s. And this movie blew me away. It's like a really, really challenging film. It's really wrong on a lot of levels, but it's also really right on a lot of levels, and really is more than anything a comment on just the results of child abuse. I would say be a very kind of uh, you know, reasonable explanation for it. A lot of psych happening in all of these films. As I mentioned in the thing about the 50s, um, psychology was starting to bubble up into the screenwriting and the production of films in the 50s. Um, and Hitchcock was definitely one of the people that was familiar with that for that with movies like Spellbound and Notorious, concentrating on the psychological element available, and Gaslight, those types of films. Um, so Peeping Tom, great, great film, masterful film. And of course, Michael Powell made Matter of Life and Death and Colonel Blimp and all the Gone to Earth, all those classic British films in the 60s, in the 50s. Next film in 1960, Three Worlds of Gulliver. Now, I think this is a Ray Harryhausen film, but it's got all these special effects that are incredible. Great score by Bernard Herrmann. Go to Spotify immediately and listen to the Bernard Herrmann score to this. There's a really great Bernard Herrmann album put out by London/Decca Records in the 70s, I think. And it's got him conducting stuff from Psycho, from um, some of the Sinbad movies, from Journey to the Center of the Earth, and also from the Three Worlds of Gulliver. So uh, this Bernard Herrmann movie is cool, and the score is great to this. Also in 1960, or no, 19, we're at the end of 1960, but 61, the movie One-Eyed Jacks, which is the only movie that Marlon Brando ever directed. And it's a Western. Once again, lots of heavy psychological elements that work in this. It has the great Carl Malden, who at this point had made maybe two or three movies with Marlon Brando. And he was part of the uh, Lee Strasberg's theater studio uh, educational thing in New York City. So Malden is great. Most people just know him from Streets of San Francisco, but he is an incredible actor. He's also in, I think, Streetcar Named Desire. He's the one who takes Vivian Lee out on a date that goes horribly wrong, but she's nuts. So, um,
Says House of Usher.
yeah, House of Usher, that's on my list. Absolutely. Terrence Stamp died. Yes, I saw that. And he's in one of the movies that I think is in the 60s, which is the movie Teorama by Pasolini, where he plays possibly a business acquaintance of the father of this bourgeois family in Milan, I think. And he shows up and basically the man falls in love with him, the mother falls in love with him, the housekeeper falls in love with him, the son falls in love with him, and the daughter falls in love with him. And all he ever does is just kind of walk around and go,
Mhm.
I think what you're doing is great. You should, much like Chat GPT, what you're doing is great, you know. So they all just project all this stuff onto him. He doesn't really respond. And it's interesting. I recommend Teorama by Pasolini. So back to One-Eyed Jacks. Um, one of the notable things about this film, One-Eyed Jacks, is that Stanley Kubrick was actually directing it to begin with. And this would have been Stanley Kubrick's only Western, unless you consider 2001 a kind of Western, which I sort of do in some sense. I've been thinking about it for 50 years, and I think it's a Western in space, maybe. But yeah, RIP to Terrence Stamp. And watch Teorama, great film. And also, uh, if you get the Criterion Blu-ray, there's a great interview with Terrence Stamp on there that's from maybe 2005, where he kind of recounts his whole journey through young stardom, isolation in India, being kind of a yogi, and then coming back and being General Zog in Superman. So it's worth finding that that Blu-ray for the movie, as well as the interview with Terrence Stamp. Um, One-Eyed Jack's incredible Western. It's great. It's got a real amazing ending. It's an amazing story. Marlon Brando gets betrayed by his outlaw friend, who is Carl Malden, who later becomes the sheriff of a town that Marlon Brando wanders into. And he is a sheriff who runs a clean and proper town. So when they meet up, it's quite something. The whole story's great. The movie's been restored really nicely. So if you grab the Blu-ray of that, you won't be disappointed just to take a look at, or stream it if you have Criterion Channel. And it's also, Brando did a great job. It's too bad he didn't direct more films, because he obviously knew what he was doing. All the shots are amazing, actors amazing, sounds amazing, and I think it might have even possibly been filmed by the guy who did a lot of Peckinpah stuff, but I'm not really sure on that. Next, we have 1961. We have The Innocents, excellent ghost story, British ghost story, starring Deborah Kerr. She is a governess who gets sent to look after a wealthy man's children that he's inherited because his niece has died or something like that. So he just says, "You look after him," and the governess gets sent to look after these kids, and it's a haunted house. Incidentally, this movie does have kind of a link to Marlon Brando also, because years later, um, this movie's from 1961. I think it may be 1975 or 76. There was a sequel to this movie, The Innocents, that's called The Nightcomers. And in The Innocents, there's always this kind of shadowy figure who is the land keeper or the gardener or something. And in The Nightcomers, it's basically kind of a prequel, and it shows you what happened to make it so the ghosts end up in this building. And the movie The Nightcomers is made by Michael Winner, who made, I think, Death Wish and a bunch of other great exploitative movies. But Marlon Brando plays the gardener, and all the stuff that he gets up to in this movie called The Nightcomers. So keep that in mind. Watch The Innocents. I've always thought that might be a good double feature, The Innocents and The Nightcomers. Nightcomers is super salacious. It's got Marlon Brando doing some stuff that's, I mean, it's 70s Marlon Brando. What more do you want? It's possibly the best Marlon Brando. So next we have 1961, Guns of Navarone, big budget action, 70 millimeter shot film. Gregory Peck, David Niven, Anthony Quinn. Who else is in it? I think those are the main guys, maybe. Jack Hawkins, possibly. Great big budget film about a suicide mission of, determined commandos to go and take out some Nazi guns on a big island on a little island in the Caribbean to make it so that all of the Allied shipping can pass safely, thereby taking food and ammo to whoever. It's World War II. We don't know. It's highly elastic, the story, but it's great to watch. And if you ever get a chance to see it on a big screen, this is one of those movies on the big screen that makes all the difference. It also has, as I mentioned, Anthony Quinn. And I think maybe the best acting in the entire movie is done by Anthony Quinn. And there's a scene where they all get captured by the SS, of course, they have to. And the SS are particularly unsavory, torturing bastards, which a lot of them were in real life. So this isn't far from the truth. But the scene with Anthony Quinn, I won't give it away to you, but his scene when he's captured by the Nazis with everybody else is it's worth watching the movie just for that.
See what their favorites are.
So do you guys have any of your favorites for the 1960s at all? Do you know yet? You got any yet? I know you've mentioned some, the entire 60s. I don't know. Okay. Next, 1961, last year at Marienbad, Alain Resnais, really weird um, more or less art piece about a couple that keep meeting at a place. You don't know why, you don't know how, you don't know what the years are. It sounds really weird and strange, and it is, but it's a great watch. Hey, Angelina. Yeah, Spider Baby, of course. Yeah, absolutely. That's Lon Chaney Jr. Yeah, you had Rhubarb and you had Spider Baby. So they're both like about animals. So, okay. When we do the 2000s, you'll have to put Babe in there, right? Spider Baby is great. I think it's Lon Chaney Jr., isn't it? And possibly Sid. What's his name? I can never remember that name of that guy. Sid. He's the one that's in the movies with like Pam Grier and stuff, and even Rob Zombie movies. Spider Baby is awesome, though. I love all those kind of movies. Let's see. Okay, 1962. Whatever happened to Baby Jane? Um, Great classic pot boiler directed by the great Robert Aldrich. Um, I mean, what a beautiful film, right? I mean, this is, yeah, it's 1962. So once again, this is kind of turning up the psychology dial. Let's see how far we can do it. I mean, these are major film companies just kind of dangerously veering into pot boiler land. And it's great. And of course, there's a lot of behind the scene stories about Betty Davis and Joan Crawford on this. And fantastic movie all the way through. One of those ones you can't stop watching. And also, I can recommend the Mommy Dearest movie, just as kind of like a side note of that, with Faye Dunaway playing Joan Crawford, and epic watch. Also, not in the same league as um, not in the same league as Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but adequate. See, Blore says, I feel Baby Ruth helped spur Rosemary's Baby. Hmm.
Characters.
Baby Ruth is the characters. Let's see. Baby Jane. Baby Jane. Yeah, it's quite possible. Yeah. Um, okay, 1961, Yojimbo. And in 1962, Sanjuro. So I can kind of combine these together. Two great Kurosawa films with Toshiro Mifune. Sanjuro is somewhat of a sequel. He's playing the same character. This is more or less the invention of the so-called man with no name, famously used in Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More, which are coming the years immediately after this. And of course, it's just another example of, let's take a look at Kurosawa. Oh, yes, that's incredible. Let's copy that. We'll make cowboy versions of it again. So that worked really well with Magnificent Seven, but it took an Italian, Sergio Leone, to decide to do that. So Fistful of Dollars is basically a remake of Yojimbo. Um, it's I wouldn't call it a poor second because it's something completely different, but Yojimbo is in a class by itself. It's got incredible score, almost an avant-garde sounding score. The camera work, cinematography is amazing. Um, Toshiro Mifune is great. Every actor that's in a Kurosawa film at this point is just, their brains are exploding because they're in, every one of them. When I watch them now, every one of them in their mind to me looks like, I'm in a Kurosawa movie. I'm in a Kurosawa movie. And they probably are. And of course, Kurosawa was just, we're going to wait here till we get the clouds we want. So that's a great thing. And yeah, it's all, the great thing about Kurosawa movies, I mentioned this before also, is that his movies tick every single box. They're not just kind of, okay, people are pissed all the time, or it's a movie filled with people that I can't stand. Um, Even the most kind of loathsome characters in Kurosawa movies still have pathos, they still have humanity. None of them are just painted with a broad brush. In some of his later movies, there's some things that are a little bit that way, like in Ron or Kajimusha. But earlier on, I mean, the characters are just quite fleshed out. I mean, they're really interesting, and you can watch them forever. So after those two, 1962, Lawrence of Arabia. Not much to say about this other than amazing David Lean film. Not entirely completely authentic. But of course, what movie is? I mean, you've got to leave the boring bits out and then kind of amplify the things that are more sort of filmic. Um, I know a lot about T.E. Lawrence, having read a few books about him, and I'm not going to go into the kind of deviations from him as a person or whatever. He was a complicated person. I think one of the characters right in the beginning of the film actually says that, and that's kind of the spiraling off point for the entire film. But amazing film. I've seen this. I go and see this movie whenever it turns up on a big screen. I am there to see it if I can, and I've been lucky enough to see it in some uh, really nice cinemas with great sound, and that makes all the difference. Shot in 70 millimeter, fantastic film. Everybody in it's great. It's David Lean. I mean, it can't be argued with. Um, 1962, we have another Bergman film, Through the Glass Darkly. I think the Rolling Stones named a record after this one too. Not quite as intense or depressing as Through a Glass Darkly, but this is classic, excellent 60s Bergman. All the stuff you want to see is in there. The silence of God, the nature of mental illness, how we should deal with it, how society responds to it, how people in couples respond to it. Very adult filmmaking. And of course, since Bergman came out of effectively a theatrical background, actors loved him and he loved actors. So lots and lots of close ups, lots of long takes, lots of people talking about really intense things, coming up with zero kinds of solutions for anything, but kind of like the famous quote from, you know, Waiting for Godot. I can't go on. I can't go on. I'll go on. That's like the essence of Bergman movies, really, in a way.
Another one.
Oh, let's see. Angelina says, Reflections in a Golden Eye, but I like the book better. I've never read the book. Is the book, who's the book by? Is it like a Southern author? Is it by, what's her name? It's not by Harper Lee, is it?
Oh, thing.
Yeah, I know that movie. Yeah, I have that movie on my list. And there's also, yeah, Brando's great. Elizabeth Taylor is great. Montgomery Clift is great. I think no, it's not Montgomery Clift, but Brando and Elizabeth Taylor are great. And then, of course, it's directed by John Huston. Um,
Oh,
Carson McCullough. That's right. I had the word Carson in my head for a little bit. Um, but yeah, I really do like that movie a lot. It's another one of those heavy psych movies. What are people thinking? What are they doing? What are they really thinking? And the version that I have, actually, there was a so-called golden version where they put this in the color timing. They just put a golden hue on the movie for the entire movie. Yeah, I have that one. Yeah. So there's a regular version and then there's a golden version. They should do that with movies now. I think it's a great idea. So I always think of like the people who are like, yeah, it's new Marlon Brando movie. They went down there and they were just, it's yellow and it's just yellow, yellow, yellow.
something like Dune or, something like that. They have those casts over them.
What do you mean?
Movie has kind of a tint. There's lots of movies like
Like modern ones? Oh yeah, I guess they do. Yeah, they're kind of silvery or whatever.
a lot of them are yellow.
Oh, Montgomery Clift was supposed to be in the Brando role. Yeah. See, I don't think Montgomery Clift, I mean, he wouldn't have had the same sort of, I mean, he just doesn't have Brando's gravitas, you know. I mean, Montgomery Clift was like a different, it would have been interesting to see him be somewhat of a sort of a military hard ass. I mean, especially after how he played Pruitt in From Here to Eternity. But I'm a huge Montgomery Clift fan. I mean, I think he was great. I think things just went sideways for him. It's tragic. You know. Well, he had this big car wreck. He came out of the car wreck, half his face was paralyzed. And then he got into dependency on alcohol and painkillers, and the whole thing was it's a tragic tale. I think the Clash even wrote a song about Montgomery Clift called "The Right Profile" because his right profile was frozen. So it's all about Montgomery Clift. Yeah. So some more trivia. My brain's packed filled with it. Um, okay, 1962, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Uh, John Ford Western, James Stewart as the guy who has to go back to the town that he was working in as a young lawyer. Um, it's got Lee Marvin in it. Not really much to say about this other than it's John Ford, it's Jimmy Stewart, and it's Lee Marvin, and it's great.
We're only halfway through.
Only halfway through. Look, I'm gonna have to. All right, I'm sorry. This might have to be 3 parts long.
Might have to be 3.
It might have to be 3. Is that gonna be okay with you guys? I mean, my brain is kind of going like, you know. Uh, but okay. Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, yeah, another classic John Ford Western. I think this is even the one where there's the famous quote. If you don't, where a journalist says something like, "They're trying to find out who actually killed the notorious outlaw um, Liberty Valance," and this is the whole movie is kind of a flashback. And at the end, a journalist kind of said, "Well, now that we know the truth, maybe we should just, should we print that?" And somebody says, "Oh, just print the myth. If the truth doesn't work, just print the myth," or something like that.
Felix says Doctor No. And
Doctor No. Yeah, I was going to put some Bond movies on here, but you know, this is like crazy. So I do like some of the Bond movies, but I'm putting movies that I think are like great movies. Not that the Bond movies aren't great movies, but I love Doctor No, I love Thunderball, I love Goldfinger, basically the Sean Connery ones. Roger Moore a little. That's when it started to get cheesy. But the Sean Connery ones, I mean, they have the classic John Barry scores. They've got, I mean, Thunderball is Tom Jones singing. Um, if you want your brain to explode, just pull up theme from Thunderball with Tom Jones singing it on headphones. And I mean, Tom Jones he's amazing. I have a Tom Jones side story. I'm not going to tell it now. Let's see. Okay, 1962, Tales of Terror. This is a great one of those Roger Corman films with Vincent Price and Peter Lorre, and I forget who else is in it, possibly Basil Rathbone. Um, it's got the one of my favorite segments in it is the Black Cat, and that's the one where Peter Lorre and Vincent Price have the drinking contest. There's so many great lines in all of this, but the drinking contest with Peter Lorre and Vincent Price is just, if you only watch one part of that movie, watch that. It's probably even in clips on YouTube, but this is a movie I can watch again and again. I can watch Vincent Price forever, also Peter Lorre. I mean, these are just two masters, and they make it seem effortless, and you completely believe them. You don't think, "Oh yeah, I saw a photo of you doing blah 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 wearing a stupid sweatshirt somewhere." You're just going, these are really these characters. um Tales of Terror, Roger Corman, great. 1963, we're back with Fellini doing 8 and a half. And this is a great example of kind of the meta movie where a movie starts out and then you find yourself in a different space within the movie because of where the story goes. So in Eight and a Half, we're basically with the sort of fictional creation of Fellini himself working on his eighth film, which he's having an artistic block with. So he goes to all these places to try to stimulate himself. And none of them are stimulating. He keeps going into his past, talking to actors he used to work with. And finally, he starts to get some sort of idea of what he should be doing. His screenwriters are coming to him with ideas, going, okay, when are we starting? I've got this idea. And he's going, I think that's pretty good. And of course, it's the great Marcello Mastroianni again in the lead role. And nobody is more perfect than being completely lackadaisical, non affecting, and just non involved. So he's the perfect person to play somebody who can't make their mind up about what they want to do. He's just kind of going, yeah. And he basically just does that for 2 hours until finally, within I think the last hour, the last 45 minutes, finally the producers are just going, you have to start your movie. You can't just, just doing this forever is not a job. This isn't just beginning is not a thing. Now you actually have to start making the film. So for those of us who are creative, um, that is a thing. Procrastinating, going, well, I don't know if I'll, or going to the cold swimming pool. You're kind of, oh, it's too cold. I don't know. I'm not going there. Anyway, Eight and a Half, classic. Acknowledged to be. These are a lot of these films are acknowledged to be just the greatest films ever made. Some are my opinion, but the Fellini, the Kurosawa, they just are. Next, something a little bit out of left field here in 1963, and it's actually the beginning of a Japanese film series, samurai series, called Sleepy Eyes of Death. And this is a really, really great samurai series. If you don't know about it, Google Sleepy Eyes of Death. There's actually 12 films in the series. There would have been more, but the actor who played the part of the samurai in this actually died. So they couldn't make any more. Otherwise, he might have made, I don't know how many. I think he managed to get into the early 70s, even making these films. And he died young. I think he died of cancer. And it's a tragedy because he died possibly in his late 30s or something. I mean, he was really young. But this is a great film series, and it's basically the gist of the whole thing is that he's a Satanist, more or less. He doesn't study Bushido or doesn't is not a Buddhist or study any kind of Eastern philosophy. And this is down to um, basically, I think his mother being straight up a Satanist who then gets raped by a samurai in some kind of black mass or something. He's the product of that, and that's the burden that he must carry through life. So check out The Sleepy Eyes of Death. You won't be disappointed. These are great films, and I think there's DVDs of them out there. Don't know if any of them are streaming. Awesome series. Um, Next, 63, The Nutty Professor. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of this original Nutty Professor, this is the only one that matters. The Eddie Murphy one does not matter. I don't know what it is. It's something else. But this is the one with Jerry Lewis. And I think this is his first film he made after he broke up with Dean Martin. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were not a romantic couple. However, they were major, major box office in the 50s. I think they were like top 10 box office. They had all these crazy movies, and they were kind of like Laurel and Hardy. I don't think they made a Western, but they joined the army. They did all this other stuff together, and typically Jerry Lewis was the foil.
Rob a bank.
I don't think they robbed a bank. Um, Dean Martin was the suave crooner who would occasionally sing a song in one of the sequences, which Jerry Lewis would then mess up. And then Dean Martin also showed up on a variety of Jerry Lewis telethons just to go, hey, we're still pals, and this is still important. If you guys don't know about that, that's a whole other separate thing, as Dean Martin is. But this version of the Nutty Professor is great, and it's based on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And when Jerry Lewis is the professor, and he's completely nerdy. When he drinks the formula, he turns into a version of Dean Martin. So he's not like going, he's all suave, and he has a super nice Edith head suit on and plays the piano. And everybody just kind of goes, look at this guy. The sequence where he walks into the club, the purple pit, to be the first time, and they show everybody's face when he's walking in, is great. And everything he says is great, and he's an insufferable person. But fantastic film. Jerry Lewis also directed it and wrote it. So this is an awesome film. Gotta watch it.
Buddies. Beverage.
And what is everybody's beverages? My producer wants to know, just to make sure you guys are all.
Coffee.
It's coffee. Nobody cares.
Yours is water.
It's pure rainwater with 100% grain alcohol. And we know where that's from, right? Or do we? Barks root beer. Nice. Root beer. Nice. That's an old school drink. What is it? It's beer made from roots. Next, 1963. 1963, Lord of the Flies. And this version of Lord of the Flies is the only one you need to watch. It's great. You're probably all familiar with Lord of the Flies stories, but the thing I love about the Lord of the Flies is it's just a bunch of kids who get marooned, and then of course they descend into, feudal medieval society virtually immediately. And then not really a spoiler alert, but you go to the end of them, they're all just kind of completely AWOL. They're obviously completely feral. They become feral. And then at the end of the movie, they're just kind of, somebody finally shows up to rescue them and is like, okay, boys, get in line. And then that's what they do, just because there's finally an adult there telling them what to do. And they're just, without a question, they're just, okay, we're going to do what you want. Let's see. We'll catch up on the archive thing. Jason and the Argonauts, yes. The Haunting, yes. West Side Story, yeah. I mean, I love West Side Story. I love the score, the great Sondheim Bernstein score. The dancing, the original one. Sorry, I just got to go with the original. And of course, I mean yeah. I've always personally wanted to do a version of the song America, because it's just such a great song. I think I could do an interesting version of it. What do you guys think? You want to hear a version of America by me from there? Let's see. The Haunting, Goldfinger Charade. Awesome films. Love all that stuff. We were talking about the Bond films a little bit.
Says yes, you should do it.
Okay. I'm gonna put that on my note. Put that in my notes. Lord of the Flies. Actually, the next one, 1963, Jason and the Argonauts. So awesome. Ray Harryhausen. Don't really need to say much about it if you guys haven't seen it and you want to see a fight with real skeletons. animated skeletons, stop motion skeletons. That's where you go to see it. And it's great. It's got a great Cyclops in it. The whole movie is just, it's another one of those movies where um, barely ever shows up on the big screen, but it should. It's a all those Ray Harryhausen movies are built for the big screen, as all these movies were. Next, 1964, Zulu. Now, this is a movie that made Michael Caine, and it's about a hopeless defensive maneuver by the British military in the 1850s in South Africa, where they take on, it's supposed to be heroic, but if you read about the real stuff, it's pretty stupid. They decide we're British. So there's like 300 of them, and there's like 25,000 Zulus. You can predict where that's going to go. But fantastic film. Once again, great British actors in it. Uh, Possibly Jack Hawkins, Stanley Holloway, I think. Really awesome. Um, let's see. I know it's not a movie. 60s introduced us to Rod Serling and Twilight Zone. Yes, Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. I was going to do a little side thing about some 60s TV because there's great 60s TV. The Prisoner, is awesome. Patrick McGowan, classic British 60s TV. But let me move along with this
What
movie list. What did we watch?
Outer Limits and Twilight?
Yeah, we watch Outer Limits and Twilight Zone frequently, and it's great. And you get these great writers like Richard Matheson and Harlan Ellison and stuff writing for it. I mean,
Show up like
yeah, great actors show up who are going to be in future movies, like people like Dennis Hopper and I think even Lee Marvin and people like that. Robert Redford, Clint Eastwood, all these people show up in. Yeah, Martin Sheen showed up in an Outer Limits. Anyway, Lord, don't show bloody spears at me. Exactly. Michael Caine he's another one of those guys you can just do a whole hour talking about his career. Next, 1964, actually looking at this, had a ridiculous amount of great films too. The next one, Doctor Strangelove. So that was my reference to Rainwater and pure 100% and 100% pure grain alcohol, which of course General Jack T. Ripper says. Stanley Kubrick, Peter Sellers playing, 5 different parts. Interestingly, there's a lot of great behind the scenes trivia about this, stories and whatnot. And just briefly, I'll give you one of them, which was basically Peter Sellers got to the point where, well, he's playing the president, he's playing Dr. Strangelove. He also plays RAF group captain, whatever his name is. So that's 3 roles he's playing. And apparently Stanley Kubrick said to him, "Oh, what you're doing is wonderful. I have this other part for you also." And he wanted Peter Sellers to also play what's the name of the Slim Pickens character? Slim Pickens character's got a great name. All the characters have great names, but the Slim Pickens character, the captain of the B-52, was supposed to be played by Peter Sellers also. And when Kubrick started approaching Sellers about doing this, this is like all the production has kind of started on this. Peter Sellers actually went to his physician and said, "I want you to write me a note saying I have a sprained ankle because doing this role was going to be involving crawling up inside of this set because of course Stanley Kubrick built an exact replica of a B-52 cockpit for the movie. And Peter Sellers basically lied and said that, yeah, that's right, Major Kong. That's right. Excellent name. Um, so yeah, they had to get somebody else to play Major Kong, and they found Slim Pickens, and Kubrick didn't tell Slim Pickens that it was a comedic role. He just said, "Okay, this is what's happening. Here's the, you're the captain of a or the commander of a B-52. You're going to go and drop bombs on Russia. So that's what you're doing." So Slim Pickens was playing that part completely straight, and it's great. You can't imagine anybody else the in the role of that. And also, incidentally, on a side note, one small thing about Slim Pickens, during the whole, he gives this little announcement going, "Okay, we're going toe to toe with the Ruskies, thermonuclear war, boys. Here's where we're going." And he reads out the contents of their emergency kit, and it's got gold dollars in it, gold rubles in it. It's got condoms in it, and he says, "Shoot, a feller can have a pretty good weekend in Las Vegas with this stuff." And what he was actually going to say was he was going to say, "Folks can have a pretty good weekend in Dallas with this." But JFK had just been assassinated in Dallas right before this movie was about to come out, I think, or maybe right before the movie came out. So they went back in and they looped him saying Las Vegas instead of Dallas. But if you look very closely, you can see him say Dallas. So that's one of the very, very few mistakes. It's not even really a mistake, but in Kubrick movies, I mean, there's a whole school of people that are like, we know there's mistakes in here somewhere, but Kubrick was the kind of guy where it's like, not for you, not for me, not for anybody. Um, so, okay, 1964, Mask of the Red Death. This is a Roger Corman film with Vincent Price. And this is one of my favorite ones. It's the role that Vincent Price plays is just an evil, evil, snarky, hideous nobleman who locks everybody in his castle during a plague and just toys with them, basically. And he's got a sequence of colored rooms also, which is kind of a nod to the Bluebeard legend. But this is a fantastic film. I think it's shot in the UK, and they just use sets from some other big budget historical film to make this. And it's excellent. There's nothing wrong with this film. It's one of all of the Roger Corman movies before he started getting into the really crazy exploitation stuff are great. They've been super nicely restored. So if you get a Blu-ray to watch out of your library, it's going to look awesome. There's like The Haunted Palace, House of Usher, as Blore mentioned, I think. Um, Comedy of Terrors, Tales of Terror. Um, and what else? I think I'm missing one or two, but they're all great. If you like that kind of thing, of course. Um, Next, 1964, Hard Day's Night. This is the first movie by the Beatles and came out in 1964. And I am old enough to report that this was actually the first film I ever saw in a cinema by myself. And I was 5 years old. And my mother, I was living in England at the time. My mother drove me to the cinema. I was already a Beatles fan at the age of 5. And my mother drove me to the cinema, opened the door, and said, "Walk over there and ask for a ticket," and gave me some money. Sat there with the car door open, watching me walk over. I look back at her. I'm 5 years old. I remember to hand the money up, I had to do this. And so that's what I did. I got a ticket handed back down to me, kind of showed it to my mother. She waved, pulled the door closed, drove off. I walked into the movie theater by myself, which was empty. I mean, this is like jail time for mothers who do this now. And sat in there by myself in the middle of the afternoon, just kind of watching the Beatles and just loving every single minute of it. I thought it was fantastic. I still have a really big soft spot for Hard Day's Night. It's still my favorite Beatles record. The songs on it are wonderful. They put me right back into my 5-year-old brain, which isn't where everybody really wants to try to get back to. Hmm? Oh, yeah. And then so another time, maybe like 67 or 68, found myself in the UK visiting my grandparents, and the movie Yellow Submarine came out. And there was a toy company in England called Corgi Toys. They made die-cast metal models of things like Man from Uncle, car, the Batmobile, the Green Hornet mobile, and they made this, which I've incredibly had since I am 10 years old. And this is an actual model of the Yellow Submarine that they made as a tie-in for the film. If you click it here, the Beatles pop out. There's George and Paul, and they pop out of both things. And there's Ringo and George, because George doesn't get to sit up with us because he's not quite the songwriter we'd hoped he'd be. And once again, the periscopes go round and round. So, Beatles, Hard Day's Night is awesome. It's great. Has a lot of great lines in it, captures the Beatles' dry humor. One of my favorite moments is, some kind of older person in a suit at a Beatles publicity event or something asks George, and what do you call that haircut you've got on? He says, I call it Albert, or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, see, Longest Day, great film. Yep. And I Love Her Haunted Me as a child. Yeah, I mean, they're all great. They're all really good. I Should Have Known Better, those kinds of songs. If You'll Dance With Me.
They are kind of haunting.
They're haunting, and they are haunted. They are absolutely haunted. Ringo came up with the title. Yep, totally believable. I think Ringo should have named a lot more stuff. I mean, Octopus's Garden, there were no drugs involved with coming up with that, I'm pretty sure. After Hard Day's Night, 1964, Major Dundee. Now, this is a first kind of big budget Sam Peckinpah movie, and it's got Huston. It has a bunch of the Sam Peckinpah regulars start showing up in this. It's got the great Richard Harris, and basically Charlton Heston is the Yankee commandant of a concentration camp filled with Confederate soldiers. It's like or right after the Civil War. And he's got to use those soldiers to track down some people who need to be tracked down. And so this is a great film with nothing but tension between Heston and Richard Harris through the whole movie. Starts out with a brutal frontier massacre, and it's about finding the people responsible for that. But this is great, more or less early Peckinpah, and it is a Western. So, you know, gird your loins for that. But this is a great movie that you can just watch and check out of. Awesome writing by Peckinpah, great cinematography. Um, it's one of the greatest movies of the 1960s, absolutely. and will be in the list, as I mentioned. 1964, this is going to maybe strike you as a little bit out of my usual range, although my range is wide, and that is My Fair Lady. And that's the film of the musical with Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison. Rex Harrison was in the original Broadway show because originally it was a big, successful Broadway musical. And if you have a 4K setup, get the 4K disc of My Fair Lady and watch it. It was filmed in 70 millimeter and is just jaw dropping the way that it looks. I mean, the quality of it is outrageously good. This is what they're trying to approximate with IMAX and large format photography these days. But this film's incredible. Once again, incredible Lerner and Lowe score. It's got all these really nice songs on it, a couple of which I've thought of covering in my time. I have an idea about maybe doing a little project of my favorite movie songs or songs from my childhood. Haven't quite fleshed it out what it's going to be yet, but watch My Fair Lady. It's somewhat dated in its approach to certain things, but we're all adults here. And it's a fantastic watch. And the songs and performances are amazing. Next, Onibaba, which is a Japanese film, basically about peasant women that live in the middle of nowhere who murder samurai and the result of what happens. So, this is a fantastic Japanese film from the early 60s. If you're not familiar with it, it will be in the list like the other ones.
Stop at 64 when you finish 64.
Maybe we should stop at 64. Okay, it's been an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm going to stop at 1964. I was going to go to 65, but you guys are just going to think that I've been yelling at you for an hour and 20 minutes. And this is great. And that's great. And this other thing's great. And oh, did you hear the story about? So, okay, there's like two more. Onibaba, great watch. That speaking of haunting, that film will haunt you. Absolutely. Next, 1964, a film by Antonioni, the great Italian film director. And this film is called Red Desert. And this is Monica Vitti and also Richard Harris wandering around crazy Italian landscapes. And it's just totally nihilistic, totally existential, and completely weird. Awesome soundtrack. It's shot in color, and everything is gray. Sky's gray. The landscapes are gray, except for occasionally brightly colored buildings. And Antonio Antonioni was a maniac. I mean, this was a guy who would go and if he didn't think grass was green enough, he'd have a crew go out and paint it to make it the color of green that he wanted. So he was a cinematic maniac. And you can put on any Antonioni movie and just turn the volume down and look at it. He also made the great Blow Up with Terrence Stamp, who unfortunately passed away today, but he was 87. And so maybe it wasn't unfortunate. We can't even accuse Terrence Stamp of having remotely a terrible life. I mean, he was a kind of a golden actor in the 1960s, dropped out, went to India, and stayed there for, I think, 10 years, lived as more or less a yogi, came back, and when he came back, the first movie he made was Superman. He was the evil Zog in Superman. So let's see. Red Desert, Richard Harris, Monica Vitti, awesome Antonioni movie from the 60s. Check it out. Next, 1964, this is a great place to end. Fistful of Dollars, which, as I mentioned before, is a remake of the movie from 3 years earlier. So at least they gave Yojimbo a little bit of breathing room. But once again, these Kurosawa movies, they didn't get great distribution in the United States. So they might have popped up in Los Angeles, New York, and then possibly been shown at like the art museum or something. But they did get on the Academy's radar because these are films that got nominated for Academy Awards, and rightly so, like the Bergman films. Fistful of Dollars. Yeah, if you watch Yojimbo and you watch that, you can just go down the list of the stuff that they're imitating, but it is basically exactly the same thing. The man with no name wanders into a town with two warring factions and plays them off against each other. Um, it's great. Leone is great. And it's kind of hilarious because, of course, Italian movies were all dubbed. They were all shot and then dubbed in post. That's the way the Italians made movies. They were like, it's a little off. It's fine. Let's have lunch. It's kind of thing that Italians do. But Clint Eastwood is he's still a little green around the gills. He's still kind of okay. I'm in my first huge movie and has a little bit of I'm not sure what the term might be, a little bit of a deer in the headlights thing going on. But he does a great job, and all of the nihilism of that premise is great and still there. If you watch Mifune and then you watch Clint Eastwood, you're just like, Mifune is he's just masterful, and you forget he's even an actor because you're just going, whoa, what do you do now? What do you do now? And so I'm going to end with Fistful of Dollars, and we'll start up again next week from 1965, which immediately will be for a few dollars more. So
Couple of comments.
let's see. I'd love to hear your covers. Thank you. Yeah, I've always loved covers. I've always, in my spare time, jingle jangle.
There's film music on his channel.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, I love film music, and I've listened to a ton of it. One of my best friends is actually an orchestrator in Hollywood who works on gigantic movies. And when I say gigantic, I mean think of gigantic movies. That's what he works on. So he and I have just discussed film music forever, and all through the 60s, through the 40s, actually 30s, 40s, 50s, film music is always great. The 60s particularly gets really fantastic with people like Leonard Rosenman and Jerry Goldsmith and those kind of people. But once again, remember to like and subscribe if you have not. I appreciate you guys, certainly. And you can buy me a coffee. All the links are going to be below when I finally get them in, which is maybe going to be a little bit of time. So maybe give it a moment and then check back. You can join my Patreon page where you can hear exclusive unreleased stuff and new stuff. Also, I'm writing about this record collection of mine, and I'm writing essays and also providing needle drops of that. So, am I forgetting anything else?
Can work with you if you.
Oh, almost forgot. I am a record producer, and if anybody out there has a band knows anybody who has a band, I still produce records. I still have the knowledge here. It's quite a lot at this point. I need to get some of it out, but I'm here. I'm available for consultation also. Just jump on my website, shoot me a message. Anybody can contact me through that. I have a contact form. and I'm available, generally speaking. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you guys being here. See you next week.